Good morning, students. Happy Friday. Trust all is well. I thought for a moment that this would be a good opportunity for me to answer any questions you might have or lay out a plan of action to finish up our study of cognates, just in case you have any questions. I did send out a text yesterday soliciting your questions, but seems like everybody is A-okay. Everyone understands what they're supposed to do for their exam. But because we had those extra days off and we didn't quite finish talking about cognates, I just wanted to review that for a minute to make sure that everybody is on the same page and understands what they need to do for their exams. So let me go ahead and pull up cognates and go through them again. The last one we did not get to talk about in class to any great extent, and those are the false cognates. In your book, you can review them. False cognates are words that also look similar in writing and pronunciation, but they have a completely different meaning. And we talked about a few examples of false cognates, but I just felt a need to review them with you. Now, if I were delivering my presentation or preparing my exam, of course, I would start with the structure. And I'm going to use this chance or this opportunity to start using and use the structure to show you how you need to use the structure for your exam. Did you know that 30 to 40% of words in English and Spanish are similar or the same? Wow, isn't that delightful? To know that, that's a tremendous help to you as you're learning English, because that means you know a lot of words already in English. You simply don't know that you know them, or you simply don't know how to transform them from Spanish to English or English to Spanish. And that's what cognates are all about. Cognates are words that are same and or similar in both languages. There are three different types of cognates. And the first cognate we have already studied in class. But in the next few minutes, I'm going to speak deliberately and more specifically about cognate number 3. Those are the false cognates. Also today, I'm going to share with you another look at how to present and prepare your exam. And lastly, give you a few clues. So let's start with false cognates. As I mentioned earlier before the actual structural process, false cognates are the number 3 cognates that you need to learn. And they are probably the most difficult because, these are words that look the same in both languages, but they don't mean the same thing. Now, let's quickly review the 3 cognate styles. One is the perfect cognate. The perfect cognate is a cognate, a word in both languages that mean the same thing and is spelled the very same way. The only difference is there might be a little bit of a slight difference in the pronunciation. Those are the cognates that are perfect. Then we move to the cognates that are almost perfect. They're called the near perfect cognates. And they are cognates that mean the same thing, but they tend to have a slight variation or change at the end. Typically at the end, the suffix is changed. So that way you can get an opportunity to see, as we were talking about root words before, how you can change out the suffix in both the root words and also in cognates. And that's the beauty of those near cognates. You have hundreds of those. So I'm going to show you where you can get a list of all those. It's in your book, but I didn't get a chance to exponentially explain how you can get your hands on those. Then the last type of cognates, the false cognates, the one we're concentrating our time on today, will be the false cognates. And they are these words that look similar in writing and pronunciation, but they have nothing to do with each other in definition, right? The meanings are completely different. They're also referred to as false friends. Yeah? Okay. So look very similar, but they have nothing in common. In your book, as you're seeing here, there are a couple of examples that I've given you. These are some of the most popular examples. If you see on the column, this is something that I'd like for you to work on when you're teaching the class. Create something that shows your students the difference between the two, the false and the false cognates in both languages. So here you see I've developed this column, the system here, the Spanish word, the correct English translation, the English misinterpretation, and then the English and the Spanish translation. Number one, últimamente. That is a word in Spanish, but it sounds like it should be ultimately. If I'm studying English, I would probably think, oh my goodness, últimamente is the same thing as ultimately, and it is not. It is a false friend. Últimamente means recently, right? In English. And ultimately in English actually translates to por último in Spanish. So you see how that could be misleading and cause confusion. That's just one example. The next example is pretty popular. It's very easy to remember this. And I think I mentioned an example of my own personal life in this word éxito. And when I first came to Ecuador, I was working with the university not on campus, but right off campus. There's another building that is also owned by the university and owned by the section of the university. And right next to that was a college, a school. And right at the top, on the top of the big door that led to the school, the sign says éxito. And I thought, why would they have the exit door and where people are coming in at the main door to the exit? And I thought it meant exit, which it sounds like, yeah, it should be a cognate, right? Exit and éxito. But éxito in Espanol means success. That's why the big word was there, success. And then exit in Spanish is actually salida. So you can see how those are what? False cognates. And as you look at the other two, especially embarazada, it sounds like it should be embarrassed, but it's totally different. And that could cause a lot of either jokes or embarrassment, right? If you're not clear on what those two words mean. They don't mean the same thing. Also with emocionante and emotional, sound like they should be cognates. They sound like they should be what? Near perfect cognates, but they're not. They don't mean anything alike. So those are some of the examples. When you do your teaching, you guys, please do not use these 4 examples. There are hundreds of these examples out there. Go find some, go do some research. Now, at the end of this chapter exposition, you will see I've added a number of links. The one that we're going to be looking at this morning is link number 1. I'm going to show you, and some of you have probably gone there and checked that out, but I hope you get a chance to look at that because it has a list. As I mentioned, the list of cognates is immense, and there is this link that takes you to that list and some other videos you can watch. All right, see what's happening with those videos, how they're teaching it, and try to see if you can use some of those strategies to teach your own lesson. The next link is to a wonderful video that is not that long, and it explains how cognates work. And then the other one is the video we watched in class, Sophia Soledad Ramirez. She actually did a phenomenal job in putting together her student presentation. We watched it in class. I've also put it on WhatsApp for you so you can watch it again. Now, I don't believe this link works. It might not be activated, and that's the reason why I put it on WhatsApp so you can watch it. We have a couple more Sarah Yee. I don't think Sarah Yee has dropped that video. If it doesn't work, it's okay, because you have Sophia's example. And then there is another video you can watch to see how students have done it differently. Okay, so let me just go and see if I can show you where that link takes you to, that first link I told you about, because it's pretty powerful. I'm going to have to find it again because it has since disappeared. Give me a moment to do that. And it's all about Spanish cognates. It's an actual blog, but in the blog, there are videos and a long list of cognates. Perfect cognates, near perfect cognates, and false cognates. So you have the opportunity to go there and there we go. Let me go ahead and share it with you and have a blast. There it is, Spanish cognates. Unlock hundreds of words you already know. And this link takes you to, let me just cursor down, Spanish cognates, hundreds of them. It gives you this wonderful video, which is not that long, and it also gives you an amazing explanation, which is tremendously important for you to read through it. Not a lot of read, but please read. And then, of course, the video. It explains what cognates are. It explains the 3 types of cognates in English and Spanish. Gives you another video on false cognates, which is what I really want you to understand, because we had less time to deal with the false cognates. And I know that this is important for me to make sure you understand false cognates. Okay, so here are the perfect cognates. Again, it tells you about the perfect cognates. And then it gives you a list. You guys, this is profound. This is extremely important. Undeniable amount of information here for you to be able to look and get some of these examples. And again, please, when you're doing your exam, please don't use the examples in the book. There are hundreds of examples. Show me that you know. Okay, don't go and get the easiest ones. Look at the one we use, actor, in the book, but there are lots of other ones. Flexible, particular, pasta, pastor, alcohol, fundamental. It goes on and on. Look at this incredible list of perfect cognates. Increíble. And they're alphabetized, you guys. Wow. Look at this. Then they give you so many examples of the near perfect cognates with the definition. And these are some of the rules. The rules are the ones that you see in your book, in your course overview, are also in here. Ik to eco, os to oso, CT to CTO, TION to CION. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are 5 of the 6 that are in your book. And then they give you examples and explanations and lots of examples. See? Academico. Academic, academico. All these. So please, you guys, don't just pick the first one on the list. Look at the list, study the list, find some really great ones that you enjoy, and you can use them as examples in your exam, right? Now, let's go on to, they break it down, oso. Look at all these amazing examples. This is truly wonderful. I want you to really explain to your students, and you only have to, spend some time and explain one rule and then give an example and talk about how this is wonderful for those who are learning to speak English. I use this for myself. I'm learning Spanish. And of course, it's a beautiful way for me to expedite or to fasten or make fast my learning of English, of Spanish rather. All right, so let's continue on, you guys, and you'll see, increíble. And they give you examples. Please do not use these examples. Come up with your own sentence examples, right? Okay. Cognates in English. Isn't it incredible? This is so much. There's so many pieces of resources here that it blows my mind. All right, so look at this. Get our free 7-day email course. If you want to go beyond what we're doing in class, but what I just want you to, you can have that video or that link, but I want you to really concentrate on this list, okay? This is stuff that you're not going to learn just anywhere on your own. So there you have it. That's one way that you can, explain and teach about cognates. Make sure that you have examples. In addition to finishing our study on cognates, the next relevant point, the next relevant thing I want to talk about is your exam and how it should be structured. So let's then go to that and see if we can give you some further instructions on how to build your exam. Remember, we're going to construct the exam. This we went through in class, but I just wanted to spend some time with you to remind you of what is expected, because everyone who responded said they understood. I was excited because one of my students came and asked, could they have fun with it and make it fun and engaging? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for your own personal stamp. Don't go model or just copy stuff. Try to think about how, if you were the teacher, what exactly you will be teaching. So again, this is 20% of your grade. Always start with the introduction. Remember how Sophia started? She started with a question. And I did the same thing. Remember when I started, I said, hey, do you know that 30 to 40% of English and Spanish words are basically the same or very similar? Those words are called cognates. And then I broke it down and I said, blah, blah, blah. I did a little bit more talking that I said, in the next few minutes, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So you can start with a quote. You can start with a story like, several years ago when I started learning English, I never thought I would ever learn it because it was so confusing. I kept mispronouncing words. I kept having problems remembering words, but I overcame that. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you 3 marvelous ways to learn English on a high level so you can improve your pronunciation, you can know more advanced words, and you can understand how words are created, blah, blah, blah. See, I just told a little story. Our 3 lessons are called word pronunciation, word parts, and word patterns. These are the 3. So you're just telling people what you're going to learn. And then you start, well, hey, let's get started with word pronunciation. And you jump into that chapter. What are you teaching in word pronunciation? The 3 ED ending rules of proper pronunciation. Yes? And then you jump in to talk about, there are 3 ED ending rules. Oh, you can even start that by saying, hey, have you ever been, confused about how words are pronounced in English? Because that's your first lesson. You can start the conversation with a question. Okay. Well, I have, and I remember pronouncing assigned as assigned or walk or walked it. You start with an example, or so many of my friends, blah, 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 blah. Or have you ever pronounced the word walked as walked it? All regular present tense verb in English and in ED, but they're not pronounced the same way. So today we're going to talk about the 3 ways to know how to pronounce regular English verbs in English or in English. Okay. And just have fun with it. And you go with, the first rule is the T rule. And it says that if the present tense form of the verb ends in a voiceless sound, which is a soft sound, then the ED ending of the word sounds like T. It's a soft sound. And then you explain it, and then you give an example. Then you move on to rule number 2, which is the D sound. If the present tense form of the verb ends in a voiced or hard sound, then the ED ending sounds like D, which is hard. It's got to be consistent. Hard in the present, hard in the past. Soft in the present, soft in the past. Por ejemplo, and you give an example and just have a conversation. Then you move on to the third rule. And then you put your PowerPoint together. So you're reflecting that in pictures or examples, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. And then you move on. Now that we've learned all about word pronunciation, let's talk about word patterns, how word patterns could really improve your ability to create new words in English or create new ways to use words. We're talking about getting to the root of words. Wow. We're going to learn about roots, prefixes, and suffixes. Okay. So what is a root? And so you explain that, finding the origin or it's the essence of the meaning of a word. They're called root words. And in English is based on what? Latin and Greek. And that's why there's a similarity between English and Spanish, because we've got that Greek relationship. And there are hundreds of words that are connected because of our roots. So that's the origin. And so here, for example, here's an origin. And at this point, you guys, you can use your word tree that you produced as an example. And you can create or walk the student through the work tree that you put together And of course, you have the wonderful little exam picture there, and you put the port. If the root word is port, just like in your book, go to that example, and the meaning, to carry, and what's the origin? It's the Latin origin. And then you show them how you can, create new words by what? Changing out the prefix. So you explain to them, what is a prefix? It's what comes before the word, right? And when you put a prefix on a word, what? It creates a new word. So that's what you're just telling them, or exchanging or engaging them in information that you've learned. And what that tells me is that you understand it. That's why you're doing what you are doing. I think we're still recording, right? Oh my. Hold on for a second. I thought we were recording. Give me a moment here, because this is of no essence. Oh yeah, we're still recording. All right, that'll be crazy, right? I'm talking for 10 minutes and nothing is recording. Let me go ahead and share again, so you have a better understanding. I'm hoping that this video won't last more than 20 minutes. So there we go. We really explained all of this in class, but I just wanted to make sure everybody is clear on what you're doing. And because you've got 3 main lessons you're teaching and you've got up to 20 minutes, try to gauge and time each of the lessons to be about 5 minutes long. Once you've explained them and you put some examples in there, and at the end you give a quiz, some sort of quiz. It could be a hangman game, it could be, Kahoots, it could be just giving some examples and asking the students to repeat, just like you saw in Sophia's video, okay? Make sure you don't go longer than 5 minutes though, right? All right, so if you're doing Kahoots, you don't necessarily have to have more than 3 or 4 examples, no mas, okay? Then after you finish with the word parts, the next one is what? Hey, we're talking about word patterns. Everything is trifecta, 3, 3, 3, 3. You got 3 lessons that you're teaching, and each lesson has 3 parts. So the third lesson is what? Word pattern. What are we learning? We're learning the power of cognates, how to identify, transform, and accurately use thousands of English words you already know. And they are perfect cognates, near perfect cognates, and false cognates. So let's talk about what exactly is a perfect cognate. And so you define it, and you give me an example in your PowerPoint so I can see what you're talking about. All right, and then you show me how it's broken down and use it in a sentence. Put some pictures on there. So if you're using like hotel, which you're not going to use because that's in the book, you see a picture of a hotel, hotel. If you want to engage someone in your lesson, so you can say, okay, I'm going to say the word in Spanish, and my student, who's a friend of yours, and you can have them in your video. Okay, let's do a little quick game, just like we did in class, you guys. I'll say it in Spanish, you say it in English, and pull about 10 words and just go back and forth and have fun, right? That would be something you'd have to edit into your video. But that's a lovely way to do these examples. And then you explain what a near perfect cognate is, and you can do the same thing with your friend, just like I explained earlier. You say the word in Spanish, and they say it in English. Okay, and then the false cognates, you can guys have some fun with that. All right, so you close out your teaching presentation with, of course, in conclusion, or as I said earlier, or wrapping up, and then you can recap. So today, in conclusion, what have we learned today? Wow, some tremendously amazing ways to expand our vocabulary that'll undeniably make you a better speaker. What am I doing? I'm showing you that you've got to include advanced words. You've got 30, you guys. Go back. Once you've written your script out, you incorporate some of your advanced words. So at least you should have at least 15 advanced words, half of the words that you have on your list. So again, you close out in conclusion, as I said earlier, and you come up with, hey, wow, don't you feel more powerful as a speaker? We have just learned 3 new ways to pronounce English words better, to increase our vocabulary, and to create new words using cognates. Pronounce words better by what? ED endings. Expand our vocabulary. creating new words with roots, prefixes, and suffixes. And then use hundreds of words we already know, but we just didn't know we know them, didn't know we knew them, because we can do that now through cognates, right? So you just recapping the lessons that you just taught. And again, I hope that this has been an amazing, I hope that this has been great information for you to be a better speaker of English. I'm your teacher, Sharon Frame. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next podcast, the next video, blah, 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 blah. That's it. But remember, at the top, after you do your introduction, just like Sophia, you say your name. You don't start with your name. After you do the introduction and you say, I'm Sharon Frame. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you 3 incredible ways, 3 undeniable ways to improve your English understanding and your English vocabulary to be a higher, more advanced speaker of English. Okay? So there are 3 questions you need to ask when you're writing your script, or what you're saying. These are the 3 things you're going to answer. What is the lesson about? So the lesson on word pronunciation, what is it all about? We're going to teach you how to what? Pronounce ed ending words correctly. Then you're going to show them how to do it. That's when you explain the 3 rules. And then you say, why is it important? That should be the 3rd. Why is this important? Because what? You become a higher learner of English when you're pronouncing words properly. Imagine having a meeting with your next boss and you have to speak English and you end up saying something like, I walked into this interview because my car broke down. Walked it, not very impressive. Okay? So it helps us to be better speakers of English. Okay? And make sure you have your interactive exercises, your little exercises, just like Sophia did. And at the end of each lesson, you do what? You do a wrap up with a quiz, some sort of interaction. All right. Remember, you have to appear in the video. You could actually do something like what I'm doing on Zoom. I'm appearing in this video in a little box, or I could appear at the beginning, as I did. And then I could walk through the entire video if I have a PowerPoint already and tape everything, right? With a PowerPoint. And you can stop the recording and start it again. It's totally up to you. You can stop the recording. You can edit something else and incorporate it later. It's totally up to you what you do. So please read the instructions. You want to dedicate 4 to 5 minutes. I know it says 3 to 4 here, but sometimes you need a little bit more time. So you can go up to 5 minutes for each lesson because you have 20 minutes. And just let me just remind you, just in case, make sure you watch your video after you're done with it. Please, 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 because if your audio is not loud enough for me to hear you, I can't give you a grade, right? That makes no sense. Make sure. If you decide to use video and lay it underneath your audio, make sure I hardly hear the music and I hear your voice, because that's what's important. The reason we use music is because it helps to move things along fast. There's a lot of energy with music. But if the music outpowers your voice or is too loud, I can't understand you and you cannot get a grade. Okay? All right, my dear friends, I hope I have done a good job in giving you some tips on how to get your second exam on video in the proper order. Here is another video that is in your book. It's Gabriella, and this is Gabriella, and she has a different approach to how she teaches the lesson. I hope you can pull that up and you can see how she does it. That's far more engaging and having fun. She impersonates Isaac Edison, not Isaac Edison, but Edison. Mentioned that in class. And so hopefully you can have lots of fun with your video as well. I'm encouraging you guys not to, please do not wait until the last minute to do your video. Don't wait till Sunday and think you can do all of this by Monday morning at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, by Tuesday at 7 or at 9. That's when you've got to have you upload your video. And remember, you are creating a link for your video. Don't try to upload the raw video to Moodle because it'll be too heavy and Moodle will reject it. All right, my friends, enjoy your holiday. I'm headed to Machachi in a minute and a couple of hours to enjoy, what is it, Finesca, with a wonderful family of mine in that beautiful city. So God bless. Talk to you later. And remember, if you have any questions about what to do, do not be a stranger. Ciao, ciao.